Hello, hi. Very good morning to all of you, and welcome to our BAC talk for this morning. Right. Hi, good morning to three of you ladies, Nimaya, Azra,
Morning,
and
Mr.
Monisha. Hi, thank you for
Morning.
joining us this morning for our talk. And for those of you who are with us on Zoom and or Facebook Live, welcome to our weekly Saturday mornings with BAC. Myself and Subra, he is with me to co-host this session. Welcome all of you to joining us. And this morning we have a very interesting panel with us. At the same time, a very interesting topic that I think that all of you would find hopefully engaging and fun to listen because three of the girls here, they are international students from different countries. Nimaya, she is from Sri Lanka. Azra is from Maldives. And Munisha, in case you're wondering, no, that is not Munisha. That is what you see on the picture is possibly Munisha's pet, right? Just in case you're wondering. And Munisha will be coming on shortly, I think, on the video. Uh, but otherwise, I hope she is with us or is hearing us. And Manisha, she is from Malaysia. And I think it's going to be a great topic this morning because they have chosen to leave the comfort of their own homes and to coming to study in Singapore. And so obviously, this is something which I think many people want to understand more and find out why. Because obviously, there are options available for them to study in their own home countries, and yet they have chosen to leave that comfort of their own homes and be here, joining us here at BAC Singapore to study. And they are all enrolled with us on the law programs, right? So maybe I'll just start off by asking the student who is furthest away from Singapore. Sri Lanka and Maldives, which is further? Do you all know, girls?
I think
Maldives.
Maldives. Yeah.
Maldives, is that right? Okay, sorry, my geography is not so good. So since Maldives, then I will to then ask my first question to Asra, right? So you obviously would have, come a long distance from Maldives. Why don't you just share a bit about yourself first? What you're doing, which year you're at with us, and
Yeah,
of course, why is it that you chose to study here in Singapore?
yeah, okay. So, hi everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So, I'm a third year law student in BAC, and so yeah. Well, when I actually started my law degree, I started out as an independent student, but then, uh, well, studying alone wasn't that easy, so I decided to join a law school. So I kept on searching and searching for, um, law schools, and then I came across uh, BACE back then, and then one reason I chose to study in Singapore is because Singapore is closer to Maldives. I mean, compared to the other countries that I've been looking for. So one reason is because it's closer, and the other reason is because it's very safe. I mean, it was my dad who first told me how safe it is, and he had always liked Maldives. So I was like, okay, I should give it a try. But then I can tell you that studying in Singapore has always been my dream. And yeah, it feels like a dream has come true. So yeah, that was the reason why I came to Singapore to study.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Nimaya? How come you chose Singapore?
I came here because of my dad, but still I found I googled slow schools in Singapore, and the first suggestion was BSc. So and then I saw good reviews, and then my dad used to be here, and then he came down to the institute, and then yeah, that's how I yep came across BSc, and I came to Singapore.
Okay. So both of you, Nimaya and Azra, primarily it was through Google internet search that you came across
For
BAC.
me, yeah, BSc, yeah, Google.
Okay. Google.
Well,
Okay.
okay. So I can tell you something. I actually did apply for BAC in Malaysia back then, but it
Ah,
took them like a week to reply. But BAC Singapore had replied to me a little bit earlier.
yeah, Singapore is 3 times faster. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
You can see that.
even for me, I emailed them first and I got the reply really fast. So yeah.
did you also email BAC Malaysia? Uh,
No,
okay.
I straight away.
So it was a very prompt response from our school, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Great. I was surprised because many of our students actually come to study with us by word of mouth. So for you to Google us and come across us, I think that's great, right? Munisha, welcome. Good morning to you. Hi. Okay. What about yourself? You are in Malaysia, and obviously Malaysia has many options, great options, because we're also there as well, in BSc Malaysia. Why would you want to choose to be here in Singapore?
I really wanted a foreign exposure, and after looking up, obviously Singapore is the one pack center is safe and it's really emphasizing on their education. So after much googling, then I found out that back then, ITC School of Law was rated one of the best law school. And after inquiring about the program, and it was introduced by Mr. Subra, in fact, he was the one who explained the entire program to me, and it was
Mm,
really quite convincing. Yeah, within the
mm.
span of we were all agreed that I might enroll there.
Manisha, you must be careful with fake news. When you say one of the best law school in the world, that could be fake news because the best and one of the best are different. Because I think we are the best, right? Of
Definitely.
course, yeah. I'm biased. I'm biased, right? No, no, there are great schools out there. We are one of the best. I think so too. So how is it like studying in Singapore in terms of your experience so far? Azra, you said it's your dream to study in Singapore.
Yeah.
That's a very nice thing to say about Singapore. So do you think that right now, in terms of your actual real experience, does it match your expectation? Does it fulfill your dream, compared to what you're going through now?
Well, yes, it comes up to what has been, advertised and shown. I mean,
Mm,
yeah, Singapore has always been rated as one of the best countries in the world, and I think, yeah, yeah, and also the studies is also so one of the best, I think. Not
mm,
I think, that's what I believe because I have experienced I mean, the good part of studying in Singapore. Yeah. So I do not regret going to Singapore to study because I haven't encountered with anything negative during the whole journey. Yeah.
okay, okay. I'll come back to you afterwards, but in advance, I want you to think, is there anything negative or unpleasant you have experienced in Singapore? You can share
Oh
that as
yeah.
well later. Oh, there is? Okay, maybe you can carry on.
Well, it's nothing negative. So, when I first went to Singapore, it was a little bit difficult for me to understand the accent. I mean, they speak in
Mm,
Oh
English, but
yeah.
it was a little bit different from how I
Yeah.
speak and how I have been brought up. So for me, it was a little bit difficult to adjust to, listening. But then I think it took me like a month to like fully get adjusted. I mean, whenever I go to a grocery store or somewhere like that, it was hard for me to communicate with the people in the shop, or I mean, it was hard for me to understand what they are
Yeah.
even telling me.
Even for
Yeah,
me, I had to ask the people to repeat the question again to understand what they're saying.
same.
no lah,
Yeah.
Singapore very easy lah.
No, see.
Yeah.
Very easy
So
lah.
yeah, so just add a la, towards everything you
Yeah.
say, and then you understand Singlish, right? Perfectly. Okay. Uh, Manisha, any difference between, say, Singapore and Malaysia?
Definitely the transportation wise, because back in Malaysia, I'm used to like just drive around. Even at the shortest distance, I can drive. But in Singapore, I need to rely fully on public transport. And like this was my first time taking MRT in Singapore. So when I had to travel from Woodlands all the way to Clarke, it was quite difficult. But then eventually I realized that there's many other methods like buses and so on. So slowly and gradually, I tried many other methods and shortcuts. Yeah. But the crowd is one thing. The crowd scares me.
Okay. But the public transportation, would you rank it as, you know what, a very good experience, very connected, and all that? Very
Yes, it's
convenient?
experience, and like for me to learn independence, this was the way, definitely. So I have to choose between, I'm really not of a crowd person. So eventually I told myself that, hey, there's a city bus. If I wake up early enough around 7, I can get a city bus and go all the way to like the city center and probably have my breakfast and study there for about 1 hour. Then I can go to school around 9:30. So just to avoid the crowd, I will wake up very early.
Okay.
Okay, maybe
So
I
you
just wanna
stayed,
jump,
yeah.
if I can just jump in on that, since she mentioned about independence, and I'm just curious as well, all three of you, is this the first time that you are away from your family and
Yeah,
you are studying on your own?
Yes.
definitely.
And how, what is that experience? I mean, it's like, does it build more character for you? I just want to know a bit about that. Maybe Nimaya.
Even at something for the public transportation part, because back in Sri Lanka, I have never taken the train in Sri Lanka more than twice in my life. But here I take it on a regular basis. It's mostly because of the safetyness in, like, it's not that safe in Sri Lanka, but here it's so safe. And like, even my parents, when I go to Sri Lanka for like my summer vacations, even I go out for like 1 hour, they keep calling me where I am, what am I doing, whether I'm safe and all that. But when I'm here, like, they never do that. Like, they don't even care whether I'm eating or nothing. So like, yeah, it's a good experience for me, because I used to be a kid. Like, my parents took me to school, took from school, after school, and like, it's like I was never independent. But here it was, I had to do my everything by myself, which I think it's a good thing. Like, from the culture we are coming from, as a girl, I don't think many like many allow girls to go out like alone and like do their things. So yeah, this was a good exposure for me because it's safe here in Singapore, first thing. And then the convenience, like Monisha said, like, if you want to go to school, you can just take the bus within few, like 1 hour, you can reach your destination. So like, yeah, I think this is a great experience, and I think I'm independent enough now.
Yeah, what about Asra?
Yeah.
In terms of,
So I'll start with the public transport. So when I compare public transport with Maldives, so I can tell you one thing. I can go from one corner to the other corner of Maldives within 15 minutes. So but then after coming to Singapore, when I started using the public transport, it takes around 50 minutes for me to reach. So it was double the time. But still, I don't think that the whole experience is bad because it was very convenient. I mean, using the MRT is also really convenient. I mean, I wouldn't really give a bad recommendation about the public transport in Singapore because as far as it is concerned about whether it is convenient, well, I can say that it you don't feel hot. You just or you do. It's like I don't think that it is too crowded, but sometimes if it is the rush hour, yeah, it may be crowded, but I'll just give a very good recommendation.
And most
I mean,
importantly,
sorry,
I think
review.
it's clean.
Yeah, it's very clean as well. So yeah, so I do, when I'm living in Singapore, I do miss my parents, especially my mother, because I have to cook by myself. Well, I can tell you that it was after coming to Singapore that I learned how to cook. So I think
Yeah,
it's a
same.
good thing. So I think it's a good thing that I came to Singapore because now I know how to do everything all by myself. So I think I can be independent. I mean, yeah, I don't have to depend on my parents always.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, you mentioned about cooking, just about food a little bit. Just as you had to adjust to the Singapore accent, right? What about the food? Was it a very different experience? How's Singapore food like?
Well, the food. No, there are some things that I can eat. Okay, so if it is Chinese food, I'm not a very huge fan of Chinese food, but Malaysian and Singaporean food, like I forgot the name of it. There's
But it's good that we have options here.
yeah,
Like
there's this rice, and I really
Nasi
forgot.
lemak. Is it nasi lemak?
Sorry?
Is it
Yeah,
nasi?
that's nasi lemak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I really like nasi lemak, and also I first tried apple kantang also from Singapore. I like that as well. So there are like some food that I do like, yeah, but
Okay.
it's pretty different from the Maldivian kind of food. So it took me some time to adjust to that in that as well.
yeah.
But Nimaya, Sri Lankan food and Singapore food is
Yeah, it's quite different, but still I can manage to find something. Like there are options like Indian food goes with Sri Lankan food. So like I have options like Malaysian food. So it's not that bad, but still I miss the Sri Lankan food. But still I can cook it at home. But yeah, it's not bad. You have options
okay.
in Singapore.
Okay, I think right now, for this morning, we arrive at the most important question. So for those who are watching, please listen carefully. I'm going to ask Monisha now, between Singapore and Malaysia, which food is better? Right. So this is the most important question this morning, right? I think. Monisha, yes, be very careful now, right? You're on live Facebook.
Okay, for most food, I would definitely say Singapore food is nicer because it's less oily and less. But
Being
honestly,
diplomatic.
nothing beats my mom's cooking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's strange because I'm sure you know, right? Three of you, that Malaysia and Singapore, we share a very friendly rivalry over so many things, and food being at the heart of the rival topic of conversation, where Singaporeans will think that their food is better and so on and so forth. So for Malaysian, to saying that Singapore food is nicer, that's a very nice compliment to Singapore, right? But of course, I agree, your mom's cooking would be the best, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So do you cook yourself in Malaysia, in Singapore?
No, where I stay, we are not allowed to cook, but every Monday, because I go back on every weekend, since I'm staying in JB, I go back every weekend. And every Monday morning, my mom will wake up around 4 or 5 a.m. and she'll prepare mini dishes. She put in this mini Tupperware, like some fried sambal and stuff. So throughout the week, I can just eat the sambal and so on. Like, I'm a huge fan of my mom's sambal. So she'll cook a few dishes like macaroni and cheese for me to eat on Monday. So I wouldn't miss home food that much.
Okay, that's nice. Accommodation. Yeah, sorry, Subra.
No, because she just mentioned about where she stays, she's not allowed to cook, and I thought maybe we can follow up on that. Obviously, you all are staying in different places. I mean, it could be
Yes.
apartments, it could be a hostel, it could be a HDB flat. And maybe each one of you can explain a bit about your experience in those kinds of accommodation that you're staying in, right? Astra, maybe where were you staying, and
Okay.
what sort of
Yeah, so
restrictions you have? Yeah.
so in the first year, I used to cook. I mean, every day, almost every day. But then after I changed the place, the landlord actually initially he said that it's not allowed to cook, but later he was like, no, if you can cook. And so well, I can say that in I think that Singaporeans are scared of curry. I mean,
Yeah, I think so too.
They're scared of the stain.
Yeah.
so the thing is, I mean, they don't really know what Maldivians eat, so they're like hesitant to ask us what our culture is. So what do you eat and everything. So there have been a lot of times when I have been asked very funny questions as to, well, do you eat fish? Some things like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Well,
so where you're staying, is it in terms of accommodation, is it HDB, is it a house, is it a private condominium?
it's a condo.
It's a condominium, okay.
Mm-mm. Yeah, but then I must say that all my landlords have been like really sweet and really nice, because before I came to Singapore, one of my friends used to live in Singapore. He actually told me that the landlords that uh, he has had were really rude. So I was actually expecting something like that, but no, that didn't happen to me.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Nimaya, accommodation wise? Where are you
Yeah,
staying now? And
yeah, I'm staying at Woodlands now. And for me, I'm so lucky to have a Sri Lankan family. So because my landlords are a Sri Lankan family, because they're Sri Lankan and they know about my culture and what we cook. They don't say not to cook, but I cook at my place now. But when I was looking for a place for my last year, because I used to stay with my parents in my first and second year, but when I was looking for a place, I was so scared, like because like every place I go, they say no cooking, because like they think like we do the heavy cooking and all that. So, but I was lucky enough to get a place in, yeah, and they allowed me to cook. Yeah, I feel like I'm in home. I'm at home, so yeah, it's not bad for me.
Can I add to that? Yeah, so in Singapore, there are like very few Maldivians. It's less than 50 Maldivians in
mm,
Singapore compared to other countries. For example, in Malaysia, there are over 500 Maldivians living in Malaysia. But then in Sri Lanka, sorry, in Singapore, there are less than 50 Maldivians living. So it's like it's a rare case to meet a Maldivian in Singapore or even see one in
mm.
Singapore. So yeah, when I was finding an accommodation, I did try once to live with a Maldivian, but it was hard to find one. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Munisha, yourself, how's the landlord like? Is it a nice landlord or not so
Okay.
nice? Yeah.
When I first moved in, I used to stay with my mom's friend. But because she's staying in a 3 room, consider it was a 2 room flat, but they had a mini extended room at the back, which was too small to stay. So after about 6 months, I found a decent place, and the landlord is quite nice. She's in fact Vietnamese, but she's quite nice. She's quite understanding and stuff. Although I'm not allowed to cook, um, let's just say that they have a helper at home so that we do not have to wash the toilet and stuff. So we just stay in our room, do our own things. Yeah, that's all. And plus, where I'm staying right now is quite close to my best friend's home. So if anything, I can just have a walking distance and meet up with my best friend. And it's easy for me to travel because we always do it together. So I wouldn't be alone most times.
So far, the experiences you've had, seems to be very positive, right? Nice landlords, uh, nice food, and all that. Uh, would you have any experience to share of something unpleasant, maybe? Just to be real and honest, right? So because there could be people watching this and they are trying to think about, should I go to Singapore to study, right? And so maybe if you have any unpleasant experiences or funny one even, right? You just share the experience so that the others can have a better sense of the real Singapore from the perspective of an international student.
I think I have something to add for that, because when I was looking for a place to stay, it's so hard to find a place, because a place where you think suits you. Because I went to several places, like some they were like if you want you can take, like they don't even care, like they don't even show some respect, and some they're so rude. And yeah, so there are like different kinds of people. So like it was hard for me to find a place, but I was lucky enough to find a better place, a Sri Lankan home. So I think that was a quite bad experience for me, because yeah, it was so tiring. I mean, I had to go everywhere, even with connections of my dad. It was so hard to find a place. But when you find a place, a good place, I think still there are good places, but you have to like put more effort and like spend more time to find the right place. I think I don't think it's a bad excuse, but it's yeah. I think it's you must expect that when you are looking for a place here in Singapore.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, I can add to that. So yeah, like Nimaya said, it is the process to find an accommodation is very difficult. Well, one reason I think is because of how we look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Nimaya? So since I look very different from the Singaporeans, people will be like, "Where are you from?" I mean, they will be asking me, and some people won't even ask me. They'll just assume that I'm from somewhere. That's it.
But
So
but the good thing for me is when they get to know when I'm from Sri Lanka, they're like, oh, that's good. Like I don't know why, but I think people love Sri Lanka. I don't know.
yeah, that's there. Even Maldives. Whenever I say that I'm from Maldives, their attitude changes,
Yeah.
and like it's funny how they react to it.
Change as in how? As in more friendly or less friendly?
More friendly.
More friendly.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. Because Singaporeans are very nice people. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Manisha, what about yourself?
Okay, for me, I just feel that, of course, the price is something. Coming from Malaysia, everything is times by
From-
3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
True.
So when I find a place, I really have to look at it, whether it was worthwhile or not. And Singapore, they have more of sharing room, but I prefer to have a own room to myself. And for me to get such a room, it costs more than 500 for me. So if I convert it back, it's around 1.5.
Yeah.
So it's kind of expensive, but I have to find the right place. And it took me about 5 or 6 months to find the right place, in fact.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And some more, I prefer a family home. So, when you're a family home, you feel safer. There wouldn't be guys around or anything. So it's a much better environment in home.
So for three of you, you had a little bit of challenge in terms of looking for accommodation. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the duration like in terms of time frame? Before you found the accommodation, did it take like 1 month, 3 months? How long was it?
For me, like 6 months to find the right place.
Yeah. Even for me,
For me, it didn't take that long. It just takes around a week. I mean, it's easier to find an accommodation from Singapore. And also that I think when we talk about accommodation, it's important to say that the quality of the places, it's really good. I mean, okay, I do believe that I do agree with that, but Monisha has said that previously, as it is a little bit expensive compared to other countries. But well, I think compared to the money that we are spending on our accommodation, the quality is really good of the buildings here in Singapore. But
yeah, mostly they are good quality, but I went to few places which are not that good quality. I have to say that too because like they ask for a big price and the place is not so clean at all. So yeah, I want to add because I saw it and yeah, sorry.
What
Yeah.
about in terms of pricing? Because I think Manisha was saying it's expensive in Singapore. I think it's also true that people have said that Singapore is an expensive city to live in. Um, uh, Roughly, how is it like in terms of living expenses? Would you be able to mind sharing or putting a figure to it? Say in a given month, roughly what kind of living costs would it be for three of you?
Well, for me, it's around 1,200, I think, which is total because not thousand. Okay, 1,200 to 1,500 Singapore dollars it is per month. But I'll have to be really careful about my
Yeah,
spending if I
yeah,
need
true.
yeah, limit to that amount.
So for you, Azra, 1,200 plus is inclusive of everything, lah. Living expenses and
Well,
rental.
including the accommodation, I mean the rent and food only.
Okay,
But if I have to do other things, it will obviously go higher.
sure. Is it a similar benchmark for Nimaya
Yeah.
and Monisha?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's around thousands, around 1,000 or so.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's a very useful information because obviously that should be a factor that many students want to consider in terms of coming to Singapore to study, right? The average cost, it may take 1,000, right? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so in terms of studying law in Singapore, right? So you're all law students. May you share a bit about the law degree? What made you choose doing a law degree?
Okay.
Nima, yeah, anyone?
Okay, for me, I wanted to do a law degree since I was young. My uncle is a lawyer, in fact, so it's like a family thing that I always wanted to do law. So I just had to find the right institution, and obviously not knowing what law is as a layman, it was quite tough. But joining BAC was quite good for me because the lecturer was really thorough in their orientation. They explained what it was, and they really focused on doing a lot of activities and morning study sessions to make us understand more. So even the most dullest subject, in fact, became quite easy to understand with all the guidance.
Okay. Uh, Astra?
Yeah. Okay. So, as for me, I do not have any family member who has studied law. I mean, there are people who have studied from all the other fields like engineering and everything, doctors, but there's no lawyer in the family. So, well, what happened was in the beginning, when I was young, I used to want to study engineering. I didn't even think about studying law. But then after completing high school, I joined an office, and my boss actually convinced me to study law. He was like, Asta, you should become a lawyer. That suits you more. And I was like, okay. And so that is one reason why I was actually studying as an independent online student in my first year. So, well, he was the one who was actually paying. I mean, because it was kind of a challenge that he did. It was like, okay, let's see whether you continue this or not. So it was like a trial period. My first year was kind of a trial period for me. Yeah, so and then, but after I started studying law, I realized that, uh, well, it's very interesting. It's not confined to just one area. You can explore some more areas. Like it's not confined to only criminals. You can go and see the company stuff as well. So yeah, I do not regret starting to study law. I think it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Nimaya, yourself?
Yeah, I always wanted to pursue a career in law, but before that, law was my backup plan. I wanted to become a doctor or something related to science. So when that didn't work out well, so I decided to use my backup plan. So because I always see law as something that I can serve my people back in Sri Lanka, and I think law is the fundamental of life and liberty. So I always wanted to serve my people in my country. So I think law is the best way I can do that. So yeah, that's why I started doing law, and I always had a dream to do law. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Uh, for the viewers who are watching, we will be taking questions from you. And so if you have any questions concerning studying in Singapore or studying at BAC College or studying law, right, feel free to type in your questions on the chat box and we shall address those questions very shortly, in fact. But just maybe one more question before I then pass the time to Subra, who will then share more about, for instance, the admission process, right? For the three of you, because you would have to apply for a student visa or student pass in Singapore. How's the process like? Was it a very difficult process? You get rejected kind of thing. How's it like for you?
Well, the visa process was very easy. I mean, the process didn't last for that long, like in other countries. I mean, in Singapore, it's pretty easy to get the visa, I think. Yeah. So, in terms of the visa process, I would say that, well, there's no hassle in it, and it's easy and convenient. So, yeah.
Okay. Similar experiences, Monisha, for you?
For me, yeah, similar experience. For the first year, it was kind of tough. We have to find the area and so on. On my second year of applying, it was easier because I know the process is really fast. I just have to bring all my documentation. But for the first year before you apply, you have to do some health check that require blood tests. Yeah, which I'm really not a fan of. So
Yeah.
so it's better if you do it in Singapore. In fact, I did it in Malaysia, but unfortunately, they say they don't recognize the Malaysian one, and they suggest us to do it in a local area. So I was really unprepared. When I submit my document, they say, "Hi, I will prefer if you have a Singapore doctor certificate instead." So I was like crying. I remember I was actually crying in the clinic while doing so, and I had to hold my father's hand. Yeah, being a 21-year-old and crying in the
Same. I had the same experience.
in fact.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll pass the time to Subra, and he will collate the questions that we have received to address them. At the same time, he will share more about the admission process in case there are some of you here who might be interested to find out more about how is it like to study in Singapore.
In fact, it's interesting. Somebody on Facebook did actually ask about the registration process, right?
Okay.
So it's just timely as well. As I think all three of you have experienced, what happens is that, and if anyone is watching right now, if you're applying for a course in Singapore, like with BAC, we will first check to see whether you qualify for the program, of course, right? So apart from the law degree, which the three of them are doing, we have other programs, digital transformation, business programs, right? And if you are applying, if you meet the entry requirements, we will give you a letter of offer. And of course, following up from there would be the visa application. So our letter of offer doesn't mean that it's all ended. Still have to go through the student pass application with immigration, right? Officially, immigration says they take 2 months to 4 months, right? But I think for a lot of people, especially from countries that I think are not blacklisted, so to say, it's actually quite fast, right? Malaysians usually the process is very, very fast, right? I think less security concerns in Singapore about Malaysia. So usually that process is very fast. Sometimes even within about 3 to 4 weeks, the reply comes in already, right? Whereas maybe certain countries, there may be some issues, and so the immigration may ask for security deposit. I've encountered Bangladesh applicants where the immigration actually asks them to furnish a security deposit, right, as an additional thing over and above the normal requirements, right? So normal requirements for immigration is actually quite straightforward. Your educational qualifications, your passport details, your personal documentation. They'll also ask about your parents' background as well, right? So you need to furnish that info as well. And then I think the application fee is about $30, and then when the process is completed, there's another 60 Singapore dollars that needs to be paid. And right, the medical report is an issue. So the preference for the authorities here is that you do your medical report in Singapore, right? For fear that a student might get a clean bill of health from the country of origin, but there may be some issues there, right? So they rather have a preference for the local doctor to actually do the test, right? That medical test can be done on arrival. So literally that would mean you apply from where you are, right? So usually I assist in the process by creating the account for you. Then you go in and fill in your details. And then when the approval comes in, right, you can actually make arrangements to fly down to Singapore. That in-principle approval letter is effectively like a visa. So you actually come into Singapore, and then you arrange for your medical, and you can arrange for an e-appointment, and then you go down to the ICA office, and they will then do the processing for you, right? So it's actually quite straightforward. It's just that I think so far the glitches we've had was actually with the medical reports. First year maybe is slower, but second year renewal, third year renewal is actually much faster, because at that stage is a case of you're already a student with the school, and the school already acknowledges the fact that you're moving from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3, right? So that process of renewal is actually very fast. And just one thing I need to mention, so COVID-19, right? So we have a problem right now because obviously globally, there's a lot of restrictions on travel. So anyone who's coming to Singapore right now, there's a bit of a stop on new student pass applications temporarily, right? So Singapore went into lockdown mode, which is circuit breaker as we called it here. And as we went into that lockdown mode, we were officially told that any new student pass applications will not be processed, right? Until further notice. We've gone into phase 1, phase 2 of coming out of the lockdown. So we're just waiting for immigration to give the go ahead. For the time being, anyway, if you're an international student looking to come and study in Singapore, it's actually quite straightforward. You can actually apply to us, and we can in fact allow you to study on the program online. And at such point in time that our immigration lifts the restriction, we can then apply for the student pass and process that. So it's actually going to be quite straightforward. So in a sense, actually, the ministry here has made it very convenient for foreign students, right? They don't want to turn away the foreign students. So pending the student pass applications, you can continue online. This is also the same even for you guys also. I think right now, Asra, you're overseas, right? You're back in Maldives right now. Yeah. Okay, so Asra knows, right? So she went to Maldives just before the whole measures came in, right? And so she wasn't able to come back but she's continued with online classes, right? So, and that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be online classes for the foreign students, right? Until such time that the immigration opens up, and then at that point, then we'll apply for student pass. So far, it's been quite smooth for student pass applications. I think international students don't need to worry too much. And okay, so related to that, maybe I just want to pose a question to all of you, right? We all are doing online classes right now, right? How has the experience been of doing online classes, right? Is it different? Is it better? Or do you prefer face-to-face? Nimaya.
I think when it's live, I prefer a classroom class. As in like attend in, I mean, a physical class. But the good thing about online classes is that we can go watch the lectures again because it's been recorded. So like, yeah, it's not much different, but I think, yeah, it's like 50-50. I prefer both.
Well, as for me, I also prefer both. Well, obviously it's different, but I think the online classes are also effective because it's pretty clear that, I mean, when you explain, you also show the slides as well. So it's not confusing. It's just really good.
For me, I have to disagree. I prefer more face-to-face.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I prefer more face-to-face because, well, when you're doing face-to-face, you get to ask more questions. And I mean, you can constantly ask questions even if you don't understand throughout the lessons.
Yeah, even you don't have to worry about asking stupid questions because when you're asking online, it's like, what will others think?
Yes, exactly. So it's like, is my question retarded or not? Should I ask this question? So I have to like think twice before that. But then, honestly, I prefer a more face-to-face environment.
I think speaking as a lecturer, from my perspective, I think that I end up preparing far more for an online class than I would if it's a face-to-face. Face-to-face, I can walk into class with a marker pen and I just write on a whiteboard and teach. But because I'm mindful that online, that I don't have a whiteboard, right? And so I need to make sure I have my notes, I have my slides are clear, And so in that regard, I find that I end up giving more, I think, to students in an online class. And so in that sense, you would benefit more, I think. Subra, is that your similar
Yeah, I
experience?
agree also. There's a lot more preparation that we engage in because it's online. Like what Chang said, I think for most of us BAC lecturers, a lot of the info is all up here, right? So it's quite easy to just go stand at the board and then explain to you right on the board. But when we are preparing online for you guys, we need to really be careful, right? Because can't just be talking like this, right? So it has to be information that you can see. So PowerPoint slides, visually how we present, right? You notice I use a lot of color as well, right, when I'm writing now because it's online. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
these are all the little things that we think about to prepare, and we are hoping that that actually makes a big difference for you guys, when you are listening to your lectures, right? Nowadays, like for public law, I use a lot of pictures as well, right? But I remember you guys when you were learning public law, it's a lot of
Talking,
explanation. Many of
yeah.
you
Yeah,
thought very
a lot of work.
boring, right? Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
But I think that's the difference, and I hope that it's good for the students, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I teach IP, right? Intellectual property. And so, say a trademark. I can right now show the trademark in question with full color on the screen. Whereas, if it's in classroom, I mention the trademark and I can't show it, right? So there's a bit of a limitation. And so online class, I think it's great. And just to add on to what Subra was saying, right now in Singapore, the authorities allow us to enroll foreign students wherever you are. So if you're watching this, or your friends who may be interested to want to enroll with us here at BAC, wherever you are, I think it's not a great chance. COVID-19 in a sense has made it more seamless or easy for you to study from wherever you are. So do find out more with us if you're interested. And even when after COVID-19, if you want to study here in Singapore physically because you prefer face-to-face, as Subra has explained, the process is quite straightforward and fast. It takes how long, Subra? You were saying just now,
Okay,
6 weeks?
so the official position is 2 months to 4 months,
Yeah.
but our experience has been we've gotten as fast as 3 weeks. The longest it took was 6 weeks. So
Okay.
6 weeks is about our experience in processing.
Yeah. So quite a fast and speedy process, right? Now, whilst waiting for maybe a few more questions, and I think we have some coming in,
Yeah.
I want to just maybe wind down a little bit and ask the girls another question. What next after this, right? So you all would be graduating very shortly, in about 1-2 years time. So when you finish the law degree here at Singapore, you plan to still continue working in Singapore or going back to home country? And then with that, we shall also get Subra to share a bit about the recognition of the law degree in Singapore as well for work purpose. But for the three of you, what would your plans be in that sense? What next?
For me, I'm planning to do the bar in UK, and after finishing that, I want to either work in Singapore or back in Sri Lanka, but it depends on the with all this all happening in the world right now, and I'm not sure how long it will take, but as long as possible. Well, yeah, I want to do that. The main goal is to do the bar, and then yeah.
Okay.
Well, as for me, I actually want to work abroad. I mean, Singapore. I do not really want to work back in Maldives. Well, one reason is because of the salary and everything, and also I want foreign exposure as well. I mean, I I think it's a good thing to have foreign exposure or foreign experience. Um, maybe after 5 years it will be an added point. So actually I would actually prefer to work in Singapore because I've actually done some research. I've been asking around with my friends as to what the process is, and also the recognized universities in Singapore. So yeah.
Okay.
Similar to both of them, for me also, I would like to settle down in Singapore. Definitely. Again, it's closer to home, so I can go back any time of the day.
Settle
And
down as in find a husband in Singapore, or settle down as in?
no, find a work here and stay
Oh,
here.
sorry. Just to clarify, Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have to find a work first for everything. Yeah. Anyway, I think I prefer Singapore than Malaysia. Number one is definitely the salary wise, and I feel that of course there will be much more stress in the workload, but I'm sure it's a very good thing, and definitely with any recognition from Singapore, if I try abroad, it will be easier for me
Yeah,
than have a local certificate and going abroad.
yeah, even for I would like to add something for that, because even for me, I'd like to work here in Singapore because the first thing is the salary and then the exposure. And also it's, even if I stay here in Singapore, I won't get homesick because it's like a 3 hour flight back home. So like I still can go visit them maybe on the weekends, or like when I have the money to do that. So I think, yeah, Singapore will be a good place to start your career and like go on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard actually a lot of students having similar thoughts as three of you, where they like to work in Singapore, and also in some sense, Singapore is a good launching pad in some sense, right? With that, when you do apply for jobs in other countries, they may then recognize the fact you have worked at an international city, and then easier to then go to other countries of your other choices, right, for career enhancement. Okay, Ms. Subra, you want to share a bit about the recognition of a law degree and work in Singapore?
So there was actually a question as well that was asked, which was about whether the law degree that we have is recognized in Singapore. So it's not a straightforward answer as usual, right? Firstly, what do you mean by recognize, right? So if you are talking about practicing as an advocate and solicitor in Singapore, which means you're called to the bar in Singapore, as with most countries, usually every country will have their own requirements pertaining to practicing as an advocate and solicitor, right? So in Singapore, it's got to be, in our Legal Profession Act, is clearly stated, it's got to be a recognized university, right? And by that, there's actually a schedule and a list of universities that is stated. So our local universities, of course, right? And for UK universities, they've listed 11 universities. The University of London colleges are listed there as well. So we are actually doing the University of London law degree. We are also doing our own proprietary diploma in law, advanced diploma in law, which leads to articulation into a final year in Hertfordshire as well as in Essex. So those are the programs that we have. Now, for these programs that we are offering, you won't be able to directly practice as an advocate and solicitor straight away, right? What can happen is this. You could do the UK bar, right? After you've completed the degree. When you're called to the bar in the United Kingdom, then that will be a classification where you become a foreign practitioner. It is possible as a foreign practitioner through a sponsorship in a local law firm to apply to practice in Singapore as a foreign practitioner, right? Now, of course, that route would involve restrictions in terms of the type of work that you do as a foreign practitioner. You're going to be dealing with your MNC clients, you're going to be dealing with foreign clients, right? As opposed to local legal work, right? So that's one where we do have students of ours who have completed, who have done the UK bar and then they've gone through that route. And then we have those students who have completed the degree here and gone on to be in-house counsel, right? So to be working as an in-house counsel within a company, let's say a bank or any MNCs or even SMEs in Singapore, there isn't a requirement in terms of the particular university that you get your degree from, right? So it's actually law background that they're looking at. And of course, usually some experience, working experience helps a lot, right? So many of our students who are somewhere in the mid 30s or even their 40s who do the law degree, for them, there's less difficulty in becoming in-house counsel. I think the very young ones, maybe if you're graduating at the age of about 23, 24, 25, and you want to go in-house counsel, you may feel a bit of resistance, only because that's the nature of the market, right? So then usually you need to work in that company as a legal assistant before maybe about 2-3 years later they can appoint you as an in-house counsel. So that's the thing that people must bear in mind when we say recognize. Many civil servants have come and done this degree, and they are working in the civil service. Civil service does recognize the degree for career advancement within the civil service. So there's no such thing as the government doesn't recognize it. It's just this, to be an advocate and solicitor, right? There are restrictions in terms of the route that you take. Because the other thing that several of our graduates have done is after doing this program, they've gone on to SUSS to do the Juris Doctor program, right? And then from there to go into practice as well, right? So those are the routes that are possible also, right? So of course, if you're a foreign student, then in your country, of course, then you need to check your practicing requirements in your country. Commonwealth countries, usually University of London Law degree will be recognized in nearly all the Commonwealth countries, right? Some Commonwealth countries may have some additional requirements, right? Like Canada, it does recognize, but there's some additional requirements to be fulfilled and all that, right? But I think like you guys, it's not an issue, isn't it? Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and all that. Doing a University of London law degree is recognized straight away, right? You actually go and do your bar exams in your own country. Yeah. I think that I hope answers that question about the recognition and practice. Yeah? I don't see any other questions at this point in time.
Okay, so if there are no questions, maybe a final question to the three girls, and then we'll end. What advice would you give to an aspiring potential student who might want to consider studying in Singapore? So in say one sentence, what would you think your advice may be to a potential student, say from your own home country, who might want to come to Singapore, right? So if you're speaking to a fellow Malaysian, or a fellow Maldivian, or a fellow Sri Lankan, what would your advice be? Let's start with Monisha.
In my opinion, by all means, please come over to BAC Singapore. If you don't mind going through the trouble of traveling, but I'm 100%, I'm going to assure that studying in BAC Singapore is going to be very useful in your life. And the reason is because the lecturers are willing to help. And I'm pretty sure the lecturers know that how much I will go into the office to annoy the lecturer, and
Yes.
I'll hand him assignment, and I will torture the lecturer, please give me back. Like Mr. Subra, I often give him, and he's too busy with his work, and I keep torturing him. Are you done? Are you done? Can I have it back? The thing is, the lecturers are really willing to help. So compared to where I did my A-levels, I would suggest that BAC is like the best spot for you to study law.
Okay, thank you for that. Nimaya?
I think for as a Sri Lankan, for if any Sri Lankans are watching, what I have to say is come here, because the first thing is BAC is the best place, and then the second thing is the country. I think it's safe. What we have back in home, it's safe even for girls, especially for girls, I think. So it's safe, good exposure. You can not just only study about the law. This is a multicultural country, so like you can get to know many people. I think it's not just about the law. It's a good, even if it's about the law, it's a good school where we study. So just like Monisha said, even if we ask stupid questions, they don't even mind. Our lecturers, they even ask us to ask stupid questions. They ask us to ask because they tell us to ask anything, even though it's wrong. So like so I think come here. That's what I want to say. Yeah, it's the best option you can have.
Okay, thank you for that. Astra?
Yeah, well, I agree with Monisha and Nimaya. Well, the lecturers in BSc are always willing to help, and they never say no to any kind of questions. So, well, I would recommend BSc to all the Maldivians who are willing to study law, because I have had the best experience, I think, that I can get from any law school. and the way how you treat the students. I mean, it feels like we are at home. I mean, the way you greet the students, it's really nice. We never felt like we are foreigners. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. For those who are watching, in case you're wondering, this whole part is not scripted. And you can ask the girls now. I never did ask them to say anything concerning how BAC is a good law school, because we are a good law school. So thank you for watching, right? And have a good morning. Stay home and stay safe, right? So thank you, girls, for joining us.
Thank you.
Maya, Monisha, and Asra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
The world is changing exponentially. Humanity will see more changes in the next 20 years than it has in the past 300. What we do will change. How we do it, even more so. Be ready. Join the education revolution designed to impact and transform lives. Access 300 world-class programs in over 40 areas of study from over 30 international partners and affiliates in an education ecosystem like no other. Become a future-proof global graduate now. Own your future.